Assalamu alaikum. In the Arabic language, we have al-fa'ilu. Al-fa'ilu simply means the verb, which means an action word. So fa'ilu is what? Verb. This verb could be categorized into two based on the number of the root letters. What do you mean by root letters? Each word has its own root letters. Just like in the English language, we have the word coming. The root letter of coming is what? Come. In the Arabic language, we have the word yaktubuna. The root letters are kataba, which are just three. So the al-fa'ilu, the verb in the Arabic language, could be categorized based on this into two. The first category is called al-mujarrad. Al-mujarrad simply means the bare verbs. Al-fa'ilu al-mujarrad, the bare verbs. What we mean by the bare verbs are those verbs which have all of their letters as the root letters. All of their letters are root letters without any addition being made on the letters. The second category is called al-fa'ilu al-mazid, which means the additional verbs. Verbs which have additional letters being added to their root letters. These verbs also have their root letters, but now some letters have been added as an increment and addition to them. Now coming back to al-mujarrad, al-fa'ilu al-mujarrad, which means the bare verbs, this is subcategorized into two. This is what? Subcategorized into two. The first subcategory is called al-thulathi al-mujarrad, which means the tri-letter bare verbs. The tri-letter bare verbs, meaning the verbs which have only three letters as their root letters. Recall that we said al-mujarrad only have the root letters, and here we have al-thulathi mujarrad, meaning the verbs which have just three letters as their root letters. That is the first category. The second subcategory is called al-ruba'i mujarrad. Al-ruba'i al-mujarrad. Al-ruba'i al-mujarrad simply means the verbs which have just four letters as their root letters. Four letters as their root letters. Now the same goes for al-mazid, which means the increased verbs. These increased verbs, they also have al-thulathi al-mazid, which means verbs who have their original letter, their root letters as three, but now addition has been made. Their root letters are three, but addition has been made to those root letters. The second subcategory is also called al-ruba'i al-mazid, which means verbs which have four letters as root letters, but increment has been made on them. We will now see that all what we're going to be discussing between al-thulathi al-mujarrad, the tri-letter verbs, and also the quadri-letter verbs, the three-letter verbs, and the four-letter verbs will also be concerned with al-mazid, that is the addition. So whatever we learn from the al-thulathi al-mujarrad and al-rubai al-mujarrad, we also see it when we go to al-thulathi al-mazid and al-rubai al-mazid. To begin with, let's start with al-mujarrad, which is the bare verbs, the verbs which have no increments, they only have their root letters. Let's go. Al-mujarrad, as we said earlier, they are verbs with just their root letters without any addition. And we said this is subcategorized into two. The first is al-thulathi al-mujarrad, which is the tri-letter verbs, and the al-ruba'i al-mujarrad, which is the quadri-letter verbs, the four-letter verbs. As for the al-thulathi al-mujarrad, the tri-letter verbs, verbs with three root letters, these have 6 awzan. What we mean by 6 awzan is the scale of measuring the verbs. As we go further in this series, we shall be placing each video for each of these awzan. Here we have 6 awzan, 6 scale, which we can use to measure all of the verbs which will fall under this category. The first scale wazn we have is fa'ala. The first three awzan, they are different in terms of their past tense. The first we have fa'ala. This fa'ala, in the present tense, it has 3 categories. The first fa'ala, we have fa'ala. Then the present tense will be yaf'alu. Then the second, we have fa'ala, but we have yaf'ilu. We can see the ayin has changed here, yaf'ilu. Then the third, we have fa'ala. Then we have yaf'ulu. The fourth, now we have fa'ila. Fa'ila is also of 2 when it comes to the present tense, the fi'l mudari. We have fa'ila, yaf'alu. And we have fa'ila, yaf'ilu. And lastly, we have what? Fa'ula. Fa'ula is only one, even in the present tense, so we have fa'ula, yaf'ulu. These are the six scales of measuring all of the verbs which will fall under this category. As for the first scale, which is fa'ala yaf'alu, that is where we have the word dhahaba yadhhabu. We can see it maintains the same vowelization. Fa'ala yaf'alu, dhahaba yadhhabu. The second scale, which we have fa'ala yaf'ilu, we have what? Daraba yadribu. That is an example. The third, where we have fa'ala yaf'ulu, we have what? Makatha yamkuthu as an example. Then the fourth scale, the fourth wasn't, where we have fa'ila yaf'alu. An example will be what? Sami'a yasma'u. The fifth wasn't, where we have fa'ila yaf'alu. An example will be what? Hasiba yahsibu. That is also a different word. And lastly, the last scale we have under al-thulathi al-mujarrad, the root letter words, we have fa'ula yaf'ulu. Example, karuma yakrumu. That's all for al-thulathi al-mujarrad. Now moving on to al-ruba'i al-mujarrad, the quadri-letter root verbs. The verbs which have all of their four letters as root letters without any addition. This has only one wazn, and this wazn is just fa'lala. Again, the wazn we have here is what? Fa'lala. Fa'lala, that is the wazn. An example word we can bring here is tam'ana. Again, tam'ana. We can also have dahraja. We can also have zalzala. This is just one scale for measuring all of the words which will fall under this category. As we said, this is going to be a summary to cover all of these topics, while subsequently we'll be doing videos to cover each of them in details, inshallah, with all of their awzan, both the fi'l al-mad, the af'al al-madiyah, the past tenses, the af'al al-mudari'ah, the present tense, and the af'al al-amr, and the command tenses, inshallah. Now that this is all for al-mujarrad, the bare words, the bare verbs which have no addition. Moving on to al-mazid, the increased verbs, the verbs which their root letters have been increased with some other letters. Al-mazid, we said it is also subcategorized into two. The first category is called al-thulathi al-mazid, the tri-letter verbs which have been increased. Recall that when we are in mujarrad, we said we have three-letter words. These three-letter words, where we brought six awzan. These scales could be increased with some letters. That's what we call al-thulathi al-mazid, the tri-letter verbs which have been increased. These also have subcategories. The first category is where these root letters have been increased by just a letter. These root letters have been increased by just a letter. The other category is where the root letters have been increased by two letters. And the third category is where these three-letter words have been increased with or by three letters. Let's go to the first one. When the three root letters have been increased by a letter, this could come in three awzan, that is in three scales. The first scale is where the three-letter words have been increased by hamza. An example, we say af'alu. The word fa'ala originally is the three-letter root words. Now we increase it by adding hamza at the beginning. So we now have af'ala, like adhaba, akrama. These words are usually used when you are making someone to do something or giving something out to somebody. So you say adhabtuhu, I walked him out. Normally I could say dhahaba, he went out by himself. So when I add hamza to the dhahaba and it becomes adhaba, what do I mean? I say adhabtuhu, meaning I walk him out. I'm the one that make him to do something. Or adhabahu, he do that, he made somebody to go out. This is the first word. Now, another one where a letter could be added to the three root letters is when there is an addition of alif. An example, we have fa'ala. This is the wazn, fa'ala. We can see the word originally was fa'ala. The three letter was fa, ain, and lam. But now after the fa, alif has been added. So we now have fa'ala. An example, we can say qatala. These verbs are usually used when an action is being done by two groups of people. Qatala ba'duhum ba'da. They fight themselves. Now the third wasn't where a letter is also being added is when there is at-tad'if. What do we mean by at-tad'if? Where there is doubling of a letter. Originally the word is fa'ala. Now we can say fa'ala. We can see the ain al-kalima, the ain, which is the middle letter, has been doubled, placing shadda over it. So we have fa'ala. An example, we can say fattah al-abwab. These verbs are usually used. Verbs on this category are usually used when we talk about something that is being done excessively or many times. Like we can say fattah al-waladu al-abwab. The boy opened all of the doors. When I say fattah, meaning he opened them excessively, very well. These are the awzan for those three root letter words, verbs which have been increased by just a letter. Moving on to when two letters have been added to the three letters. When two letters are being added to the three root letters, these are also coming in 5 awzan, in 5 scales. The first scale will come in the wazn of infa'ala. This is where alif and nun has been added to the 3-letter root verb. In fa'ala, we can see the word originally was fa'ala. Now I have added alif and nun. So we have in fa'ala. An example word we have in qata'a, in kasaro. The Prophet ﷺ said, in qata'a anhu amaluhu. MashaAllah. Now let's move on to the second scale where two letters have been added to the 3-root letter verb. This is where an addition of alif and at-tad'if. Alif has been added and a letter has been doubled. And the wazn will be if Allah. You can see if Allah, alif has been added, alif kisra e, then the lam at the end of the word fa'ala has been doubled. So we now have if Allah. An example word is what? Isfarra, ihmarra, iswadda. This is usually used when we talk about color. When we say iswadda wajhu, his face become what? Darkened. Isfarra, it become yellow. MashaAllah. Moving on to another wazn, to the third wazn, to the third scale, where two letters have been added to the 3-letter root verb. This is where there is addition of ta and at-tad'if. Ta has been added and there is also doubling of a letter. The wazn will be tafa'ala. We can see here we added ta to the word fa'ala, and the what? The ainul kalima, the ain of the word, has also been doubled. So we have tafa'ala. An example will be what? Takassaro, tabassama, he smiled. Tabassama rajulu, the man smiled. MashaAllah. Now moving on to the next wazn, to the fourth scale, where two letters have been added to the 3-root letter word. This is where there's an addition of ta and alif. Again, ta and alif. Here the wazn will be tafa'ala. We can see the original root letter was fa'ala. Now we have add ta'un and alif to the fa. So we have tafa'ala. Here we can have taqatala, takatharo. MashaAllah. The last wazn where two letters have been added to the 3-root letter verb is where there is an addition of alif and ta. The wazn will be ifta'ala. Example, ibtasama. We can see the word what? Fa'ala was fa'ala, but we added alif and ta to it. So we have ifta'ala, ibtasama. Ibtakaro rajulu, meaning he woke up early. MashaAllah. Now moving on to Athulathi al-Mazid, to the 3 root letter increased verb whereby 3 letters have been added. These commonly will come in one single wazn, though there are other awzan scales, but these scales are not very common. We shall be talking about this in subsequent videos, inshallah. But this scale that is most common, it comes in the scale of istaf'ala. 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 Meaning alif has been added, sin has been added, and ta'un has been added. So we see here that 3 letters have been added to the root letter fa'ala, istaf'ala. An example we have istaghfara. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, was istaghfiru, seek forgiveness of your Lord. Istaghfara. These awzan, words that will fall under this scale, are usually used when seeking for something. You say, istaghfarutullah, I ask Allah to grant me his forgiveness. With this, we come to the end of the Athulathi al-Mazid, the 4-letter words, the 4-letter verbs which have been increased, and we said they could be increased by a letter, and this will come in 3 different awzan. We said they could be increased by 2 letters, this will come in 5 different awzan, and we said they could be increased in 3 letters, and this will come in a single awzan, in a single wazn. Now moving on to the last part, subcategory of the al-mazid, of the additional letters, where we will have what? Al-rubai al-mazid, the 4-letter verbs which have been increased. Recall that in the mujarrad, we said the 4-letter root words was coming in the wazn of fa'alala. Now, if this word has been increased, what will be the wazn? This will also come in 2 different wazn. This will come in what? In 2 different wazn. The first wazn we have is tafa'alala. Recall the wazn was fa'lala. Now we have tafa'alala. Ta has been added to fa'lala, so we have tafa'alala. So we have tasalsala, an example. Tazalzala. MashaAllah. Now, the last wazn, we have what? If allala. Example what? Will be what? Itma'anna. If allala, itma'anna. MashaAllah. With this, we come to the end of the summary of what we mean by al-mujarrad and al-mazid, that is the bare verbs and also the increased verbs. And as we said earlier, as we move up from this video, we shall be creating videos simplifying each of the awzan that we have talked about in this video. But no, when we talk about al-mujarrad and al-mazid, we are majorly talking about the past tenses of these verbs, because somebody could ask that if we have the word yaf'aluna, which is a present tense verb, this word has been increased by some letters. Is this part of this awzan we're talking about? No. We need to return this yaf'aluna to the past tense singular verb, which is fa'ala. If we have the word yaktubuna, we should return it to kataba before we start talking about the increased words. So increased words are always known when all of the words are in their past form. And make sure you watch this video to the end in order for you to understand, and if possible, rewatch it so you can understand. As we move further, it will be easy for you. And know that it is very important for you to know this topic, especially if you would want to use the dictionary, because the dictionary will not be providing us with all of the words. Why? It will be much for the dictionary. You will not be able to carry a dictionary that has all of the words you see, but with this knowledge, you'll be able to return any word you see to its past tense, and you can easily check it out to know what is this position and also the grammatical position and even the meaning of the word. For example, when you come to the Quran and you see the word istaghfar, for example, you may not see this word in the dictionary, so you can easily look for the root word. What is the root word? Istaghfaro. Or you see the word yastaghfirun, you return it to the root word, which is istaghfaro. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us full knowledge. Do like, share with your friends, and drop your comment at the comment section. Make sure you click on the subscription button in order to get frequent updates from our channel. Until we meet again, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.